Well, hello everyone, and welcome to today's live learning event, Exploring Vision Language Models in Grooper. This is the fourth event in our DevNote series, which is designed to give you insights on the newest Grooper innovations. And today we've got a good one, as we're going to take a first look at VLM Analyze, an exciting brand new activity in Grooper. Thanks for joining us. My name is Brad Blood, and I will be the moderator for today's event. If you have any questions, you can send them in through the Q&A or chat box at the bottom of the screen, and we will answer your questions as time allows. We're also recording this meeting today, and we'll be sending out a link to everyone who registered for it. We'll also be adding this recording, the video of it, to our Grooper YouTube channel, so be sure to subscribe to Grooper AI on YouTube to never miss any of these meetings or any of these videos. All right, today's speaker is Dylan Greenwood, Director of Product Operations here at Grooper. Dylan is dedicated to educating Grooper users on the possibilities of intelligent document capture. With a background as an educator, his aim is to increase understanding of the Grooper platform, leading to effective and efficient document processing solutions. His work includes designing the Grooper University coursework and robust documentation on the Grooper Wiki. Dylan, take it away.
Thanks, Brad. Well, welcome everybody. We're here today to talk about vision language models in Grooper. And if you're not familiar with what a vision language model is, that's okay. They're relatively new to Grooper, certainly. But if you are familiar with a large language model, they're very, very similar. So whereas a large language model would take your prompt, your text-based prompt, your question, analyze it and give you an answer, vision language models do something very similar. It's just you can provide not just text to the model, but you can provide an image as well. So, Grooper's AI extract, if you're talking about a pure text-based document, just hands the AI text, right? And that's basically what we do in AI extract. Hey, here's the text of the document. I have a couple of questions about some data on this document. Give me back the results. With a visual language model or vision language model, or VLM, the process is very, very similar. Just instead of handing the model text, you're handing it an image, but still asking it some kind of a question. Hey, tell me something about this image. And this allows us to do stuff in Grooper we've just never been able to do before. Text-based document processing has always been our bread and butter. Even long before the AI age of large language models, we cut our teeth in various types of modeling around just document text. With VLMs, this gives our platform some capabilities that we've just never been able to do before. So I'm going to show a few quick demos in terms of, to give you guys an idea of what a VLM can do within Grooper, and also just show you how to set up our VLM-based activity, VLM Analyze, from scratch. Any questions before I dig into Grooper, though?
No, there are none yet. And just to let everybody know, if you have a question, just submit it through, I believe it's our Q&A box that went hidden on me for a minute, but hopefully you see it. If you see it, then you can just use that to send us a question, and we will answer those as time allows.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, so let me bring up Grooper here, and I'll show you a little bit of what I'm talking about. So I've got a couple of quick demos. One that is entirely based on photographs. So I'm just going to go ahead and review some previously extracted documents, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty in terms of the config in a little bit. So I'm just going to run review, and you can see what I have here are some images of auto accidents. So, I'm kind of imagining a scenario where you might have some images included in something like an insurance claim packet. Okay, well, previously, if Grooper was evaluating that claims packet, sure, we could evaluate the text-based documents, but we would get to this image and say, I don't know what to do with it. I don't have text. An OCR engine can't do anything for me here, so I don't know. Do with it what you will. All of this data that was collected here was accomplished using a VLM and the new VLM activity in Grooper. So it was able to analyze this image and say, yeah, this looks like a pretty severe collision. I can tell you what parts I see that are damaged. We can even get some highlighting associated with these fields as well. Point of impact, a repair category out of this list of categories, some other key indicators. All of this information is coming from that VLM. analyzing this image, and then Grooper extracting it to a data model. Tells us information about the vehicle make and model, some information about the scene, even some information about the image quality. So pretty slick stuff here we've just never been able to do. And, the other thing here too is I didn't really know, honestly, what kind of questions or what data I should even be extracting because Grooper's never been able to do this before. So I literally had a chatbot help me kind of build out, hey, what kind of fields do you think somebody doing an insurance adjustment would want to find from this image? And I think with very, very minimal work here, I was able to get some pretty good results on probably some fields that would be important to some kind of insurance analyst. It's selling us also not just information about, say, this collision, but information about the image itself, understanding that, hey, we're coming from the context of kind of claims processing here. Hey, we probably need more photos than just this one, and it's giving us an entire rationale of, yeah, we need to see some other stuff, and here's why. This one is pretty obviously a total loss candidate, but, it was able to give us pretty good reasoning as to why that is the case, right? This one's just kind of a basic windshield, but, I thought it was pretty cool that it's getting the repair category here pretty good. Rather than just saying like cosmetic or structural, whatever, it's like, no, you're going to have to replace that panel, right? This one I thought was pretty interesting. So, kind of a just portion of the car here, so not a lot to go off of, but the model was able to analyze some pretty good information here. Of course, those damaged parts, those key indicators, but it even got the make of this car. And the first couple of times I went through this demo, I was like, how are you even figuring that out? Like, how do you know that's a Scion? Who would know that? And once I, hooked up the highlighting, I actually could tell pretty clearly there's a Scion emblem right there on the wheel. So really, really slick stuff here. Again, just stuff Grooper's never, ever been able to do. I even handed it a really, really crummy image and was like, okay, well, what are you going to do with this? And, it tried its best because, again, that's what an AI is going to do. It's going to try and tell you what you told it to do, right? But down here on the image quality, this is something I could see being very, very useful to an actual batch process or an actual workflow where, hey, you might get some images that are unusable that you need to flag for, hey, we need a different image. The VLM was able to do a pretty good job of saying, hey, this isn't a usable image. It even tells you why. And then, of course, in the more photos needed, it's going to tell you some other information as well. So that's kind of a taste of what this can do with images. Before I go into the config of how I got this to work in Grooper, any questions so far?
None yet, but I will say that it looks like Zoom has, at least for me, hidden the Q&A box. So if you are trying to message us but can't find the Q&A box, at least in my version of Zoom, if you will navigate down to the bottom toolbar and then look for more, and it has a little circle with 3 dots in it, and then click on that, the Q&A box is hidden in there. So if you're trying to find it, that's apparently where they've moved it to.
Awesome. Thanks, Brad. All right. So let's get back into design, and I'll just show you a little bit of the config to let you know, kind of how to put all these pieces together.
Dylan, sorry, real quick, we did get a question.
Sure.
Someone asked, is this information, and that you may address this here in a minute, but is this information straight from the VLM, or are there any parameters specified of what indicates which repair category to choose?
Pretty much straight from the VLM. So, one of the big, it's actually kind of a 1-2 punch here. It's a combination of the data that you're getting back from the VLM, and then actually a combination of how you're extracting that base data that the VLM gives you back to a data model. So let me show you how this works. First thing, we've got a new activity called VLM Analyze. And this is the thing that is sending the image to that model for analysis. And very, very important to get this to work is, of course, you got to give it a model that you want to use. The more modern GPT models are multimodal models. That means that they do both text and vision analysis. Certainly all of the 5 models, but even 4.1 is a multimodal model, as we'll see in a little bit. But in terms of defining, hey, what is it you're looking for here? You're always going to have to give some kind of a JSON schema. And this is basically the structure of what it is you want the VLM to respond. Now, I'm going to be entirely honest with you. I don't know a whole lot about JSON schemas. I don't know hardly anything, quite frankly. But I was able to generate this model essentially just talking to an assistant. That's something we'll do in a little bit, just using this assistant helper in Grooper to generate a schema for us as well. But, basically what I did was I hit this assistant helper and I said, hey, look, these are the kinds of things I'm looking for. So I told it, a certain number of parameters like, hey, I'm looking for, maybe these types of values for the severity, right? Entered in all that information in my prompt, told it to spit out a JSON schema. It spit it out. That's what I used. And as you can see when this runs from the tester, I'm just going to go ahead and process this image so you can see some of our diagnostics here. What's going to happen is VLM Analyze is going to take that schema that we generated, which basically outlines the structure of the data that we want to collect. And it's going to take any instructions that you write in natural language. If you didn't see that property, I'll show you here once this is done. And then it's going to send those instructions and the schema to the LLM with the image and give a response in JSON. So here's that schema that I generated for this request. This is the full request body, which we don't really need to get into. Interacts with the chatbot, gets a response back. And basically, this is what Grooper uses at the end of the day. So now we have a structure that can be put into a data model, for lack of a better term, very easily. It's going to be really, really easy to analyze this data and figure out where it needs to go in a data model, even if it doesn't exactly match up with, kind of the data structure we see here. All right. Next question you're probably asking yourself is, okay, well, now that we've basically defined how we want the VLM to answer, we've got an answer. How do we get this into a data model? That is done using AI extract and a particular quoting method called JSON file. So at the end of the day, whenever VLM Analyze is done doing its stuff, what it does mechanically behind the scenes is it creates a JSON file and attaches it to the page so that Grooper can use it later. Once that's done, that's good. That is what lets us use AI extract to take that data file, analyze it, and parse out the data to data fields in Grooper. All you got to do, it's really, really quite simple. Here, we'll go ahead and start from the top here, is set a document quoting method to JSON file. That's going to let AI extract know, hey, I don't want to use the document text. I want to use a JSON file that is attached to the document. For this file name here, easiest thing to do, go to that activity. It spits out exactly what the file name it's going to create in this file name property here. Copy that, paste that there into that file name property. And the only other thing you got to do, since this data file lives on the page object, we're going to turn from pages to true. Data file's on the page, from pages equals true. The other thing too, since we're basically just analyzing a JSON file, you don't have to use a really fancy model to do the analysis. I'm using GPT-4o, which is a pretty lightweight model. It's not super expensive. It runs pretty fast to just analyze that JSON file that VLM Analyze created and then map those appropriate values to wherever they should be in the data model. Any questions about that before we look at one more example?
Nope, none so far.
Okay. So obviously, VLM Analyze has applications analyzing photographs. That's kind of like, hey, no, duh. Great. That's fantastic. Gives Grooper some capabilities, again, we've never had before. But there are also visual elements on text-based documents too. And those might be signatures, those might be checkboxes, those might be charts or graphs, those might be stamps or seals. These are all visual elements that may appear on an otherwise text-based document. VLMs can handle this kind of data, analyze it, and respond accordingly as well. So I've got a really quick demo to show you that capability. Just using a lease document that was filed with a county clerk. Bring up my batch here. So there are, even on a pretty simple document like this, there are visual elements that are not, strictly speaking, pure text. We've got signature down here. We've got a filing stamp with the county where this was filed. We've got a notary seal. Even just a simple 3-page lease like this, we've got some visual elements here. And, any document filed with the county is probably going to have those same elements, right? If I were using even a DI layout data from DI Analyze, those of you who have been on these sessions before know that document intelligence is the latest and greatest in terms of Grooper's capability of analyzing text documents. Really, really good OCR data, really, really good capabilities in terms of figuring out document layout. Great stuff. Can they do vision-based stuff? Kinda, but not everything. So even running with DI data, it got the signature pretty good. I've seen DI Analyze do a pretty good job of basically performing signature detection because it does handwriting recognition. So it knows oh yeah, that's a handwritten signature. Pretty much that's where a signature field should be. Yeah, that's a signature. But can it figure out that the document was notarized? Nope. No evidence of a notary section, notary signature, notary stamp, even though clear as day, we've got that right here on the second page. Same thing with a filing stamp. No, I don't see a filing stamp or a filing date or anything because, this is kind of an old document. And there is a stamp here. And, the filing date isn't totally readable, but, that is a filing stamp, right? We human beings can see that visually quite well. It's just something designed to do pure text recognition, may not be equipped to handle. And there are capabilities, certainly, that Grooper has to do shape detection, stamp detection that we have had in the product for years and years and years. But they are kind of a pain to set up, I'm going to be honest with you. They require a lot of image processing. They take a lot of time. They're nowhere near as easy to set up as VLM Analyze in terms of just saying, hey, here's a JSON schema with the data I'm kind of looking for. I give it some basic instructions like this one because it had some tweaks I wanted to make in terms of recognizing signature fields, and you're pretty much good to go. Once that is in place, knocked it out of the park. Detected it was signed, even able to highlight more or less where the signature is. Detected it was notarized. Also, I'm not just kind of giving these reasonings for you guys' benefit in this webinar. It's also very, very handy to include some kind of reasoning in those JSON schemas for diagnostics or just understanding what the LLM is doing so that you can tweak and tune these instructions as you need. Filing stamp, yep, figured out that was a filing stamp too. Furthermore, since we kind of have a mix of data here, some of it's visual based, some of it is text based. Grooper can absolutely handle that with multiple AI extract passes, which is exactly what I've done with this lease document here. So in our configuration of this data model here, I've basically set it up. Nope, that's the wrong model. Sorry, guys. Here's the lease model. I've basically set it up to say, hey, for this visual data, you're going to run an AI extract pass, and you're going to quote that JSON file that VLM Analyze created. For the document text data, do a different AI extract pass, and you're going to use the DI layout data instead. And for the DI layout data, you're going to target these elements here. For the JSON or VLM data, you're going to target these elements here. We'll talk about spatial grounding a little bit in a second, but it's basically handling the document highlighting. With all that in place, that is exactly how I was able to get good data from visual elements and good data from text-based elements. Looks like we might have a question.
Yeah. Alex asked, are we able to change the VLM Analyze.json file name?
Are we able to change that VLM Analyze file name? No. This is basically generated according to what model you pick. So it's always going to be VLM Analyze underscore name of the model.json. Oh, wait, I'm a liar. This must be new. Yes, we do have a custom file name property. It was looking at me straight in the face. Sorry about that. Okay. Well, now that we've seen a couple of examples, let's take 5 minutes and configure this from scratch. We're going to play maybe a silly game here called Is This a Hot Dog? So I've got a few images here, and I'm going to see if an LLM can figure out whether or not, or a VLM figure out whether or not this is a hot dog. Yeah, that looks like a hot dog. Yeah, that's probably a hot dog. It's a corn dog. I don't know how an LLM is going to, or a VLM is going to respond to that. That's a wiener dog. It's not a hot dog. And while adorable, that is also not a hot dog. That's just a very, very cute dog in a very cute costume. All right, so how do we get Grooper to do this? Pretty straightforward. I'm just going to add a batch process. Is this a hot dog? Since VLM Analyze has to run on a page, I'm going to go ahead and add a split pages step. And I'm going to add, whoops, there it is, a VLM Analyze step next. As far as the configuration here goes, much like any other AI-based activity in Grooper or AI-based feature in Grooper, first thing you're going to do is pick a model. I'm just going to choose 4.1 for this because, again, 4.1 is a multimodal model. It can analyze images, so I'm just going to go with something real basic. Instructions, nothing yet. JSON schema is going to be, the most challenging for newer users for sure. But again, I don't know a whole lot about JSON schemas. I don't know hardly anything about JSON schemas, but I do have this handy dandy AI assistant right at my fingertips. So this is one of Grooper's AI helpers, and you can see it's actually got the exact text I entered in earlier. Basically, all I'm saying here is I need a JSON schema. I need these fields. Here's this field. Here's basically what it should do. Here's this field. That's kind of the values I want. And I want a reasoning field to explain why this is a hot dog. Honestly, I probably could have done something as simple as, is this a hot dog? And Grooper would have given me something that was usable. But I want to be a little more specific, so this is what I'm going to give it. It's going to generate that schema for me. And having done this a couple of times, honestly, it's going to work out just fine. I'm not even going to look at it. Okay. So let's do some testing real quick. Just see what we got. I'm going to go ahead and split out that page. I'm going to run VLM Analyze, and we'll look at some diagnostics before we do the extract piece. Any questions while we're waiting?
None right now. I think I can hear you loud and clear, and I know several other people can as well. But if anybody can't, just let us know. We've had one person say that they can't hear you, but to me, you're coming in
I'm sorry.
Loud and beautiful. So yeah, if you're having audio problems or whatever, just please let us know. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Brad. So anyway, in our results here, classification, it's hot dog. How certain are you? Yeah, I'm certain. Reasoning says, hey, look, it's a hot dog guy. These bounds were created just as an FYI because since I used my AI helper here, it actually took into account these remarks down here whenever it was processing my request. And this information about a bounds element being included, that's going to be really, really important to get the highlighting to work, which we will address in just a second. But first thing first, I just kind of want to test this and see, okay, well, now that I've tested one document, can I get this to work in a data model? All right, cool. We're going to make a content model. I'm just going to call this hot dog. And I'm going to create a data model, but I am honestly kind of a lazy person, and I don't want to add a bunch of fields. Hey, that's okay, because I basically have a data model right here. I'm going to go ahead and copy out this schema, and if you don't know this trick, this is very, very helpful. Instead of adding these fields one by one, I'm just going to have AI do it for me. So we have this command called import schema that you can execute on a data model. I'm going to set it to AI generated. And I'm just going to paste in that JSON schema. Hit execute. And you don't have to paste in a schema for this. You can type stuff in natural language like, hey, make me a data model for invoice processing or whatever. And Grooper's going to make a data model for you. Just in this case, since I already had a schema, it's going to make a data model very, very, very closely according to that JSON schema. I don't need this bounds and tooltip text property because that has to do with highlighting. So I'm just going to delete it. But I've got the three main fields I want: classification, confidence, and reasoning. In terms of the extraction piece here, just going to add AI extract, generator. Again, you don't have to do anything fancy for a generator when you're just looking at these VLM JSON files. 4.0 works great. That's what I'm going to use. For the document quoting, I'm going to set that to JSON file. I should have copied this earlier, but I'm just going to save real quick, go back, copy out my file name, go back into my quoting, enter that there, turn from pages to true. Okay, save, and test it out. And yep, surely is a hot dog, certain, and tells you why. Okay, I know I'm running a little bit long. Sorry, guys, I tend to do that. But I do want to show you how to get the highlighting to work here, because that's probably something you guys are curious about. That all has to do with whether or not these elements in your JSON schema have some kind of a bounds property. If you have a bounds property, now this is a pretty basic example, so obviously I had AI just generate this very, very basically. I don't need a bounds property for every single one of these fields. But if you were to tell an AI, hey, I need a bounds object for every single one of these fields that you're going to create, and AI is going to do a good job of creating that for you. The only issue is, how do you get Grooper to figure out where that bound element is? That is what this selector is all about. Easiest thing to do here is just select a bounds element wherever it exists. That is going to give Grooper the capability of taking whatever that bounds analysis was, translating it into coordinates that can then be used by Grooper's highlighting. So I will show you something else in the diagnostics here on a new image. Once you do configure that bounds selector, you do get a little bit more in terms of your diagnostics here. Sorry, guys.
By the way,
process.
Stephen let us know in the Q&A bot. He said, don't worry about running long. The content is well worth the time.
Awesome. Love to hear it. Love to hear it. So once you do configure that bounds selector, you'll have access to an additional diagnostics. This can help you judge if the highlighting is working correctly. And here, yeah, I know this is a dumb example, but it's obviously highlighting a hot dog, right? The other thing that you may have seen in that, JSON schema is a tooltip text object. That's optional as well. That is what is giving you that description there. Description, classic hot dog with condiments. Because that tooltip text object is present, that's where it's getting that text, long story short. Okay, so we know VLM Analyze can figure it out. How is extraction going to figure it out? That is all about spatial grounding. Spatial grounding is the fill method in Grooper that basically has an AI figure out, hey, how the heck am I supposed to highlight something? And when we're talking about images, this is the way that you can get Grooper to highlight something that came from a VLM. Generator here, again, doesn't have to be super fancy. Something like 4.0 should work just fine. Instructions, I shouldn't actually have to give it any instructions because spatial grounding knows what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to highlight stuff, long story short. I do have to give it the document quoting though, because those bounds are in that JSON file. So grab that file name, turn from pages to true, save it, run it on this document here. Am I going to get highlighting along with the extracted text? Yep, surely I am. Oops, didn't mean to change that value. It's fine. And that is exactly how I was able to do my highlighting in these use cases as well. Just to kind of hammer this point in a little bit further for you guys. Vehicle damage, I was very, very specific about which fields I wanted to highlight. And how did I get this to happen? Well, quite frankly, I was very, very specific about which of these elements had bounds objects. Essentially, I just told the AI, hey, I only want you to include these bounds definitions for 3 of my fields, damaged components and something else. I've honestly already forgotten. Okay, last thing last, now that we kind of have the basics of configuration here, let's just keep playing our game. I'm really curious what it does with this corn dog. It's kind of an edge case, right? Is this a hot dog? Is it not a hot dog? I don't consider a corn dog a hot dog. Let's see what the VLM says. Check our diagnostics. Not a hot dog. Confident, certain, shows corn dog, yada, 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 yada. Hot dog, typically in a bun, right? Now, what if the VLM produced a different result. And it said, yeah, it's a hot dog. Corn dogs have hot dogs in them. What are you talking about? That is why your instructions are here. And I've seen this happen using 4.1 before. And certainly if you're, testing out VLM Analyze and you find I really need results to be more consistent, this is where instructions can be very, very helpful. So if it had just said, yeah, that's a hot dog, corn dogs are hot dogs, you could instruct it, corn dogs are not hot dogs. It would then take that into consideration in its analysis, and seeing that corn dog would have a little bit more information to go on. Oh, hey, my instructions say corn dogs aren't hot dogs. Okay, yeah, no, that's not a hot dog. Last but not least, for you guys who are staying late, let's see if it can figure out that this is not a hot dog. Yeah, it's a dachshund dog, not a hot dog, dummy. Clear as day. All right, can we trick it with our hot dog costume? How smart is this VLM? Hey, image shows a dog wearing a hot dog costume, not an actual hot dog. Very, very smart VLM. All right, guys. Well, that is pretty much the basics. Thank you for staying on a little bit longer. We saw a couple of demos in terms of VLM's capabilities of handling both images, like photographs, but also documents that have visual features on them as well. And we saw, the basics of how to configure it. Add a VLM Analyze step, pick a model, set a schema, and then add your AI extract film methods. AI extract to fill in the data, spatial grounding to highlight the data, both of them using that JSON file quoting, so it can look at that VLM file. All right, guys, I will leave some time for questions. If anybody wants to stick around, feel free to ask.
Awesome. Thank you, Dylan. Yeah, just, that was some great stuff. In closing, everybody, thank you for joining us today. We hope this has shown you new ways to use Grooper. Well, remember, we'll be sending out a link to everyone to watch this recording in the next couple days, and we'll also add it to the Grooper YouTube channel. We encourage you to rewatch this or share it with colleagues or friends who might benefit. And if you're ready to learn more things about how Grooper can help your organization, please don't hesitate to reach out to any of us, Dylan, myself, or anyone else on the Grooper team. Until next time, thanks everyone and have a great rest of your day.